All right, all right, all right. So I want every one of you to raise hands if you feel that you don't understand what your manager does. Show of hands, show of hands, show of hands. Okay. And I want a show of hands for some of you who think that you might risk your tech career if you became a manager. Awesome. So now, welcome, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, whichever part of the world you're joining in from. Welcome to What Does an Engineering Manager Do, and is this for you? I am Dhruv Agarwal, and I'm based in Copenhagen. I work for a company called Maersk as a senior engineering manager. If you have to simply define about me, you can think about a Venn diagram of tech, people management, and product, and you will find me right at the intersection. So let's know where are you joining from. Let us know in the comments about your company and the city you're joining in from. Because okay, amazing. We have people from Slovenia, people from Amazon, Brazil, Agra, India, New York, CEOs of ISPE. Amazing. All right, I was pretty excited, when I thought of speaking here, and a lot of registrations came, so that was very overwhelming. And the thing that struck me was many people from different parts of the world are joining. So I'm very excited to speak with you all today. And today we have a very jam-packed session for you all. First, we'll talk about who's an engineering manager. Then we'll talk about what does an engineering manager do. The most important part of the section is this role for you, right? And then we'll wrap with a Q&A. I will request everyone who has their hands up can lower their hands down, and maybe later put your hands up when you have a question. During this session, feel free to post your questions in the comments. I'll try to answer them as and when suitable during the sessions or towards the end. All right. So cool. Let's start the session. Who is an engineering manager? Before answering who, let's answer why an engineering manager is even needed. So let's understand how things have changed now, right? Engineering manager is a title that we have started recently listening about. It's not, very old. So in the days back then, internet was not prevalent everywhere. People had internet only in their offices, in the desktops. There was no mobile apps, no no internet access at homes, right? Now it has changed. Now we have faster internet, we have mobile apps. What does that mean? Earlier products used tech to solve their operations, tech to make their operations better, efficient. Hence, technology was needed on a project basis, because when you had to set up process, you required technology to maybe write a new software or do something else. Because of this project based approach, they used to outsource the work to service companies. In service companies, you had project teams, skill based people, back end, front end, and they used to take up that project with a project manager and move on to the next company, and so on and so forth. However, now every company has a tech presence, has a tech product. So the life cycle of the tech requirement or a tech product is along with the company. Hence, it's a longer association rather than a project association. Therefore, earlier, what the term we used to hear was project manager. But now, in the new modern era, we have two new roles. One is engineering manager, and the other is product manager, sorry. The product manager lays down the vision of the product, lays down what we need to accomplish to satisfy the user, while an engineering manager is someone who utilizes their team of engineers, enables a team of engineers to achieve that mission. What does that mean for us now? I understand most of us are software engineers. So for us as software engineers, the path becomes like this. Either we can become a manager or we can become an individual contributor. A manager supports a team of engineers and builds the product, whereas an individual contributor is responsible for owning the technical maturity of a system. The titles might vary, but the typical titles are for managers are engineering managers and team leads. For individual contributors, they can be tech leads, staff engineer, SD3s, right? Now let's move to a section called what does an engineering manager do? Nothing. They just chill. The talk is over. Thank you for coming. Bye bye. It was amazing meeting you all. Of course, I'm kidding. So let's talk about the key responsibilities. So from the audience, I want to understand, what do you think an engineering manager do? What do they do? Okay. So this says selects projects to work on. Jeff says assign tasks. AJ says resource management. Animesh has a point. Office politics. That hurts, man. And Marco says, the glue that puts everything together. Shubham says code. Okay. All right. Awesome answers. So I spoke to a lot of people, within the engineering orgs and across titles. What I could feel was I could see categorization of the key responsibilities are three: people, project, and process. Simple, isn't it? So let's dive deeper into each of them. Let's talk about people. So take someone from the audience, right? So Sahil, let's take if Sahil is an engineering manager, what will he do? First of all, Sahil will build a team of people. They will hire people, right? As an engineering manager, he will be keen on searching for good people, interview them, and inspire them to join their team. The next thing is grow. So let's take Ria from the audience, who is an engineering manager. She will always be a supporter of people in their personal goals, their professional goals, conduct one on ones to understand their team better. Maybe she can also do it in a style in which she develops a bond with the team and help them achieve whatever they want, even that's beyond the organization capacity. In these cases, engineering managers are also responsible to understand whether an individual is able to utilize their full potential or not. In case they are not able to understand the full potential, they have to see whether it is a skill issue, whether they need to be trained in something which is required for the job and help with a course, with mentorship, pair programming, etc. Or it's a motivation issue where the individual is not feeling um, well appreciated. Maybe they are not feeling motivated to work at that organization, and then you need to align it. What that happens is that sometimes people are not able to deliver to their expectations, and as a manager, you need to, let's say, Ria needs to tell them what the expectations are. If the individual is not able to fulfill those expectations over a long period of time, you often have to let them go. That's sad, but yes, that happens, and that's the responsibility of an engineering manager, so that the organization is also not dealt unfairly. Next up is project. So for project, I use a very simple lens, right? The project part of an engineering manager's job can be divided into three aspects. One is now. What's happening now? Let's say you are in a company which follows Agile, or you're in a company which follows Kanban. So what are you doing right now? Maybe it's the current sprint or the current set of stories or tasks that you're working on. So as an engineering manager, let's say Ashish will have to do daily stand-ups, right? and they have to take care of any blockers that the team has and unblock them, and communicate to the stakeholders whether they are spilling over, or is there any new update on the project. Because what happens is that the organization is dependent on engineering to make sure that their communications are set, the operations team are set. So engineering manager is responsible for communicating those updates. The next phase is called soon. What does soon mean? The soon is the next set of sprint or the next set of tasks in the backlog, which the engineering manager works closely with the product manager to do two things. One, they remove any blockers on those stories or tickets. They ensure that some things like design checklist or any communication copy is in place, so that when the developer starts to work on those tickets, they know what to work on and they are not stuck while working on that. The second thing is that to make it consumable for the developer. If someone write an API to implement this, that looks like that developer can use it and make an API, but what the API is for, what is the context to make that API? That is the beauty of an engineering manager, to ensure that the stories and the tickets are written in that format. The last part for the project part is later. The team to function properly needs visibility of maybe a quarter, 6 months, or a year. So the engineering manager is responsible to build the roadmap with the product manager on what the team will work on to achieve for the greater business. This part can vary from company to company. It can be a quarter or 6 months or a year based on which size of the company you are in. Now, to manage people and projects effectively, you need processes. So let's understand processes with an example. Let's say I want to manage my team's cadence. What is cadence? Cadence is the amount of work my team is able to ship. So first and foremost, I would say if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. What do I measure in terms of my team's cadence? So I started measuring velocity, right? Velocity is the number of story points my teams deliver. For context, for everyone, story points is just an estimate which my teams give on a story on how much time it will take. And those are 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of points, which we measure for the sizing. Before measuring, let me give context of the process that we had. So on the process, we had devs used to plan and code the projects, give it to the QA. The QAs used to sign off. The QAs used to sign off the release, and then it went to production. So now I started measuring velocity and saw that most of the time that was spent in the QA sign off stage, because we had only one QA and all the developers were giving tasks to them. So what we did was modify this process a bit. The QA started giving a test plan, right? Instead of the QA testing it themselves on downloading the app every time, making a server, making the test data, what they started doing was giving a test plan to the developers before they even started coding. What that did was that developers were expected to test those things before giving to the QA, hence reducing the QA time, hence increasing our velocity. Now, what started happening was after we released, the product managers came running and said that, hey, this is not the copy we expected, or hey, this is not what the customer expected. This is not working. We need to change and we need to do that. This started a lot of back and forth for us. So what we did was add a process, of a demo. What will that demo do? So instead of releasing it to the production directly, after the QA sign off, we used to do a demo for all the stakeholders in our company. When the stakeholders saw the product, they gave us feedback. And now, because they have seen what's built, they already had a buy in. And hence, we reduced our time by reducing the back and forth. And when we released, there was nothing that was coming back to us, hence increasing our velocity. Now, once this process was done, we observed something, that once the test plan was done, the QA was really spending some time, and their sign off was still mandatory. And after the demo, the production releases were also very stable. So I thought that maybe if I remove the QA sign off, that bottleneck of sign off will also get removed, because the QAs are not adding blocking value, right? So they are not adding something which might block it. They can check it after the release or during the demo as well, asynchronously. So I dropped that process. So let me just iterate again. As an engineering manager, you have to measure, modify, add, or drop processes to manage people and projects effectively. So now to summarize it, I want your help in understanding what each of these categories mean for an engineering manager. So if I call Jeff from the audience, what do you think people do? What do you think engineering manager does for people?
Supports them in their career growth, helps them, and like helps find ways for them to succeed in their role in the company.
Right. Anyone else who would like to add on? Thanks, Jeff. Anyone else who would like to add on this?
Well, I was gonna say to hire and potentially let go of people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, I cannot see your name popping up here. What's your name?
I'm Sergey.
Sorry?
My name is Sergey. I'll put it in chat.
Sergey, thank you, Sergey. Yeah, you're right. So engineering manager hires, grows, and let goes people. And thanks, Pete, who also mentioned it in the comments. What does an engineering manager do for the projects? Any volunteers for that?
They'll come up with the timelines, pretty much try to work on a project plan to see what would be a feasible date that they can commit to. For that, they will have to work with the team and the product managers as well.
Thanks. Unfortunately, the Zoom pop-up on the side is not able to give me the names. So thank you so much. Can you say your name as well?
Yeah, my name is Leela.
Okay, thanks, Leela. And Animesh, Rajat, thank you from the comment section as well. So yes, an engineering manager, as you rightly said, manages communications and manages any spillovers for the now part. And they also manage the soon and the later part of the project as well. And then for the process part, as we just discussed, they measure the process, modify it if required, add new processes to build efficiency, and drops if it doesn't make any more sense. Now let's come to the most awesome part, which is the drum roll part. Is this role for you? Before we move forward, I would like to share a story. So 3.5 years back, I was just a software engineer, just in a path of figuring out what do I want, what do I not want. And I was in the mid of changing a company. So I went to a solo trip to UK. And on that trip, on a solo trip, what happens is that you are reflecting a lot about yourself. That's also a way to say that you are very bored on the trip. So I started thinking about, what is the right role for me, and what should I choose next, and how should I figure it out? So I think what I figured out worked the best for me is a combination of two processes, right? And those I'll discuss in this exercise. But before going on processes, let's talk about what traits are required, right? Before understanding about what should I choose, let's understand what traits are required for the career path. First, for a software engineer, we know that there are two ways possible: as a manager or as an individual contributor. But as we grow, we know that our ownership increases, ambiguity increases. Ambiguity is also a word for chaos that increases, and the structure decreases. So for sure, two traits that are required are ownership and clear thinking. So if you are growing as an engineering manager or growing as an individual contributor, you have to have more ownership. People should rely on you without telling you what to do. And you should be able to get complex tasks or chaotic things and organize them into structure so that the software teams can work on it. Now let's understand the specific qualities required for the roles. For an EM, they have to be great communicators. EMs have to talk to developers, they have to talk to product managers, they have to talk to ops and whatnot, and their words can make and break things literally. So they have to be great communicators. Leadership is all about empathy. If you cannot relate to people, you cannot inspire them, you cannot understand what they're going through. So a manager has to have a empathy, which is the crucial skill for them, so that they can relate to people and inspire and empower them to do greater things. Often engineering managers are found to run from one meeting to another where context changes dramatically. At one moment, they're talking to a developer about a technical implementation, and in the other room, they're talking to the CTO about strategy. So they have to be very agile to adapt to the fast moving changes. For an individual contributor, which is written as IC here, they have to be masters of the subject. They have to be gurus because the team is looking up to them for technical decisions, for technical discussions, and their pull request reviews as well. Technical changes are the best explained when they're documented, when they're written in diagrams, when the reasoning is laid out. And with that format, they are spread farther and remain longer in the team. That's why an individual contributor has to be a great documenter. The third, but not the least point, is that an individual contributor has to foresee how the product is going to evolve with scale. So their foresight is ultimately important because their decisions today are going to enable the product to scale tomorrow. And hence, these qualities will make for a great IC. But how to find the path? So as I mentioned that I figured out that a combination of two ideas work for me. And I hope that if I tell you these might work for you as well. These ideas are introspection, which is finding the direction where you want to go, and retrospection, on which path you should pursue on that direction. These two ideas I have tried on all my direct reports and many peers that I have been mentoring on, and it has helped them grow and helped them find their path effectively. So let's dive deep into each of these. Introspection. Before we move on finding the direction, it is important to understand what kind of direction are we looking for. Direction of career, direction of money, direction of what. So I truly believe that everything else leads to happiness. And here we are finding the direction to our happiness. So in this exercise, we are going to find what is something which truly brings us closer to our happiness. This is a longer exercise, hence this is not something that we'll do hands-on in this session, but I would highly recommend you to do this after this session and find your direction. I'm happy to help you, and I'll give you my LinkedIn, etc. at the end of the session, of course, where you can find help. So at first, imagine yourself at 50, very happy in your life. In that happy life, write whatever you are imagining. It might be a Mercedes Benz standing outside your house. It might be that you are sipping tea on a hill. It might be that the hill is yours. It can be anything, right? Think beyond the morality validations. Think beyond, that what what others think is cool. Just think what is truly your happiness. Now, once you have this imagined in your head, think of what should you be doing at 45. Of course, if someone is in the audience who is already of this age group, you can think of a number higher than your age. The idea is that you think of something very far away from your current age and then backtrack. So now think of what your life will be at 45. Do the same exercise to achieve what you have at 50. What should you be doing at 45? Also imagine, are you doing a job? Are you doing a business? What kind of lifestyle you're leading? You can also be a writer. You can also be retired, anything and everything you want. Now backtrack this exercise 5 years till you reach your age. So let's say I'm 27 and till 30, from 50 to 30, I'll do this exercise. And now I have to compare, because at the 30 milestone, I have an answer which leads to my happiness or the idea of happiness I have. But at 27 is my current state. So I have to compare whether am I on the right path or am I leading to my direction of happiness. If I am doing fine, then great. If I'm not, then it's our life, guys. Calibrate, you know. Now it's a cue for you to change your paths. I did this exercise at 23, and I did the same exercise for me, right? I had very audacious goals. At 50, I wanted to do something which changes the world, and hence I had to backtrack. At 30, at 25, I had to do, at 30, I had to be an entrepreneur, and I don't know what happens after now. At 25, my goal, and this is true. At 23, I was doing this exercise for myself. At 25, I wrote that I have to be a manager. And at 25, automatically, I was a manager. So now, what made me do things from 23 when I was entry level engineer to 25 when I became an engineering manager? I did an exercise called retrospection to find the right path for us, right? The right path is always the path where we play by our strengths. Now, I want all of you to take a minute and gather a pen and paper if you don't have one right now. I want some of you to write that you have a pen and paper, or something where you can take notes in the chat. And once enough people have those, we'll proceed. Okay, Assis and Sergey are ready. What about you guys? Awesome. Stella is also ready, and Ashish is also ready. Suraj is ready. Cool. So let's do this exercise now. So this is step one, which is done. Take a piece of paper. Now I want all of you to enter a zone of, focus. Enter a zone where you can recall things. Because I want you all to write down one activity you fondly remember from your school, your hobbies, your university, your workplace, your friendships, your relationships, and anything and everything you want. So let's take a minute, let's a minute or two, and I want to give you the time to think about it. I'll just go silent. Think about all these places and one activity you remember that you liked. Is that activity something that you're doing now as well? Something similar? when some of you have written your activities, maybe 2, 3, what you remember now, then just give me a thumbs up or write down in the chat and we'll move forward. For example, I wrote that in school, I used to try out a lot of activities. I used to try music. I used to try sports. I used to try tech. Of course, I was programming since a very long time. And I used to remember that I used to try out new things and learn very quickly. And as an adult, uh, I could not, stick to only one thing. So I was trying out programming. I was trying out sales, growth. Recently, I tried out YouTube videos. So these are two memories which I fondly remember, which are, coherent. Okay, we have two people who gave me a thumbs up. Do we have more thumbs up or do we need more time? If we need more time, just type in the chat that we need more time and I'll. Okay, we'll give 1 more minute. Cool. Sergey, it can be anything. It does not have to be work related. It can be anything and everything. For example, in my school life, I used to try out different things. That's not work related. You can also do it like party related. You can also think about making friends, anything and everything. All right, cool. So are you able to identify a pattern? Are you able to see a pattern, maybe the way of, maybe the type of activities, maybe the way you felt during those activities, maybe the way you dealt, or the traits you exercised? Do you see any pattern? Is anyone able to see those patterns? A yes or no will also work, or thumbs up will also work. Okay, so Sergey is able to see the pattern, right? And I hope some of you are also able to see it. Yeah, Kushal is also. The common patterns are actually some hints towards your strengths. Okay, if you look closely, you will find out patterns that you have been doing things in a similar way, or things which are similar, because there is a very famous quote and I live by that, is that the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So let me give you a few examples and about me, and then maybe you are able to relate more to it. So as I mentioned, I mentioned two things, right? In my school, I used to try out different things, and as an adult, I was also trying out different things. So I think my strength is being a generalist. My strength is being able to understand different things quickly. But you know what? My weakness was also that I was never the winner at it. I was never good at sports, which are very competitive. So that's my weakness. But that's a good thing, because now if I enter into something which has a competition, I will not be myself. I will not perform the best. So I always have to take a role or take a path where I can exercise my strengths. So you can be good at problem solving, you can be good at helping people, you can be good at making friends, or you can be good at something else. So now let's take 2 minutes pause again. And I want you to think more and identify patterns in your things. Let's talk with people. Lionel, are you able to see a pattern? Very nice, Ashish. Ashish is a builder, he's a creator. Who from the audience can also, like to mention their pattern if they have found one? Ayush is also a generalist. High five, man. Sergey, have you found what pattern have you found out? High five to you too, Ashish. Very nice. So Sergey is a mentor, he's a teacher. Very nice. Do we have more people from the audience? Rishabh, what do you think? What pattern have you found? Toby likes teaching, very nice. Awesome. Okay, we'll wait for a minute more for people to speak up. Am I calling your name correctly? Magui? Very nice. Jenny and Victor feel they're problem solvers. Very nice. Chandan is a complex problem solver and mentor. We have a lot of mentors and teachers here. That's amazing, because at least for an engineering manager, you have to mentor people. And Megui likes organizing. That's a skill of taking ambiguity and giving structure to it. Awesome, lovely. Very nice. Cool. So this was the reflection time, and I wanted you to share your strengths, and I hope some of you have found out some strengths, and I can see that in the chat as well, for the great response that so many people have so many different strengths, at least mentoring, organizing, solving complex problems. So if you utilize these strengths, you will be on the right path every time, no matter what. You will be able to do it. The only key will be that have you done the right direction setting? Because maybe you're on the right path, but in the wrong direction. So first set your direction, and then set your path. I'll open the stage for more question and answers, and happy to take your questions. Hello, Rishi. So Sergey has a question. Where do we start? Sergey, can you elaborate more on how to start, and where are you right now? And maybe if you can also come on mic, that's okay. Jenny, I don't think there is a requirement of any certification. There is requirement of a growth path, but no requirement of a certification.
This is Sergey. What I wanted to ask, so I'm in a senior developer position, and I just wanted to ask if I did want to take the route to become an engineering manager, how do I even go about it? Because as I see it, potentially I could become, I don't know, like a staff engineer or something. Like, how do I actually, what might be like a first step towards becoming a manager?
Right. So the first and foremost step, and that's a very good question, Sergey. So in an organization, it's the best if you can grow internally. And there are two key aspects. The three key aspects of an engineering manager is people, project, and process. And you can definitely, as an engineer, exercise those aspects. So there are two steps that I see to pursue that path. One, inform your manager that you want to become one, and give them and ask them for a path. Second, you start exercising your abilities in enabling people. So you can pick people to mentor. You can take junior engineers to mentor and improve them. You can take a new hire and onboard them properly. You can do different things, in find and take sessions for people to teach a new technology. On the project side, you can start doing communications well, right? You can start announcing in the broader audience that, hey, I am the owner of this project, and this is how it's going to spill over, or this is how it's shaping up. So this is the new timeline, and this is how we are owning. And third, on the process front, if you are able to implement a new process, so if you see a bottleneck in your organization, let's say there is a bottleneck in deployment, right? Do you know any bottleneck right now? Do you know any bottleneck
Well,
right now?
we do have, working with Ansible, we do have a process that is a bit cumbersome.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So you can take that process and propose a simplified solution. So when you start exercising these traits, automatically you get recognized as a leader who is taking initiatives and solving problems for the betterment of the organization. And naturally, they will give you a path.
Thank you. Got it.
Okay, let me address questions. So Ashish asked, a Scrum Master is also making sure, first of all, guys, sorry, I'm just taking 5 more minutes. We are cross past the 45-minute mark, but I'm just going to take 5 more minutes to address questions. And then we can connect on LinkedIn as well if you have more questions for me. For people who are leaving, I'm just leaving my LinkedIn and Twitter handles here. You can get connected with me, and thank you so much for coming up. It was a pleasure speaking with all of you. So for people who want to listen to the answers, I'm taking 5 more minutes to answer them. But for people who have to drop off, thank you so much for coming up. So just let me, yeah. So Scrum Master is also making sure that the project is aligned well. Would you say that an engineering manager reach the goal via becoming a Scrum Master? So Ashish, I think for a Scrum Master, it's again a methodology which is more operational, which is coming from a service-based background. Right now, an engineering manager is actually a kind of Scrum Master, but not every organization follows Scrum religiously. They follow it in a bespoke format, which is suitable to their own requirements. So I would say Scrum Master is a role which is still prevalent in a more service-based organization culture and not product-based. So it is, yes, it is beneficial if you become Scrum Master, but it is also beneficial that you keep a track that you're not aloof from the technical discussions. You have to be technically involved. An engineering manager is very deeply involved technically. They are not just operationally involved, they are also involved on a strategy level. And Ayush, how is it different from a tech lead? So a tech lead is owning the technical maturity of a system and not handling people growth and not handling people at all. Now, what is the salary range for the engineering manager role? That depends from organization to organization and also country to country. How easy is to go from a dev role to a managing role? No, Magui, the job finding is not difficult. I mean, if you are directly jumping from a dev from one org to a manager into another org, it will be very difficult because you have not given proof of your skill, and they cannot trust you, right? It's a different kind of role. So I think it's better if you can get an opportunity internally and grow in the organization, and then become, and switching jobs become very easy, because once you're an engineering manager, you can become an engineering manager in another org very easily, very easily. Sanskar, does tech manager need to technically strong? No. That's a very good question, Sanskar. No, you don't have to be the technically strongest in the team. People manager role has to be an enabler, has to be someone who enables the team to perform well. You don't have to be the technically strongest, and you have to trust people who are technically better than you and keep making them better. Cool. I think, guys, what we can do is to continue the discussion on the event page, and we'll wrap up for now. And it was absolutely amazing to have you all. Thank you so much for giving us time, and have a nice evening ahead. Bye bye. Take care.